What's up, everybody? We are live talking about affordability tonight.
Affordability or first-time home buyers?
Well, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
We're talking about affordability, but mostly for first-time home buyers. So, but I think we could just like kind of talk a little bit about like, is it just in general? That might be fair too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, first-time home buyers, is Myrtle Beach affordable compared to most markets, right? I think that's important. Is it affordable just in general? What isn't affordable about it? What are first-time home buyers dealing with? And I would like to know, if you are watching tonight, tell us where you live. Tell us, have you thought about Myrtle? Are you living in Myrtle? If you are living in Myrtle, are you renting? Have you bought? What did you buy? Were there any challenges? You know, did you have challenges in particular with anything? And we're gonna talk about what are the challenges and the roadblocks for first-time home buyers.
Sounds good.
Don't say too much.
I'm just cold. I gotta like unfreeze.
It is cold in here. We have jackets on our laps.
Just the weather.
Yeah, the weather. And should we talk about the weather for 5 seconds?
It's supposed to be in the 60s next week. I'm just
in case you've been living in a cave. You know, we had a winter storm that came across the country here in the southeast.
Two winter storms
in
a row.
We actually got snow here in Myrtle Beach, which is really interesting.
I know. We should have put up a picture.
I know. Well,
I don't know how to do that.
Prepared? Yeah. So, well, if I had it was prepared, I'm not. So, but we did get snow. We got 3 to 6 inches, somewhere in that range. Probably more like 5-ish.
Probably more like 2 to 3.
All right, whatever. We got a couple inches. It was going high, but it was fun to see some snow. But it was cold. I mean, up north cold. So, as I like to say,
yeah.
And it was, and then you put the wind on top of it. The fact that we were like really single digits or close to zero because of wind chill is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But next week we'll be back in the 60s, and
Yay.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Can't come fast enough.
I know. So. But we're in here in our office where for some reason it happens to be really cold today too. I had jackets on all day, but I got ready for Tiffany motivated me. So let's talk about what is going on with affordability in general and then how it's affecting people here. So price points. What people are, you know, when we say first-time home buyer, maybe we should talk about what we mean when we say first-time home buyer. First-time home buyer would be somebody who's been renting for at least 3 years before now, right? Previous 3 years.
You haven't owned a property in 3 years.
Yeah.
So when you go to get like any kind of first-time home buyer loan programs, some people think it's just, I've never owned a home my entire life. You know, that makes sense as a first-time home buyer, but they actually classify it as anybody that hasn't owned in 3 years. So that opens up opportunities to more people than just the ones that actually have never owned a home. So if you didn't know that, that's a good tip.
That is a good tip. So that's how they classify first-time home buyer. Hey, Ed, how you doing, buddy? He lives in Carolina Forest. We know that.
Cold there.
Thanks for tuning in, bud. Okay, so
I think we do have a lot of renters here. We have a lot of first-time home buyers. I think we do have the college in town. So I believe some of those people would like to stay. Or actually, I sold one this past year to a college student that was buying her first kind of investment property because she was living there and renting it out to her friends also, which is a really awesome idea to do that. And so that provided some great opportunities for her as a first-time home buyer on top of the benefits of the loan program she got. So if you're a college kid out there and want to think outside the box, that's a great option that we can discuss for sure.
Yeah. And I think today is for if you're renting, if you're relocating and you're nervous about what the process is like and whether you should be or should not be buying, you know, basically across the country, the whole concept is that it's not affordable to buy if you're a first-time home buyer. And Myrtle Beach is consistently ranked as one of the most affordable areas, but I don't know that it changes. It's definitely one of your affordable places for first-time home buyers, not the most affordable in the country, because there's places where you can still buy maybe even in the hundreds, but 200s and 300s.
You can get a condo, some homes for that here, depending on the part of town you want to be in.
Yeah. And I think the average first time in the country is like 400, roughly low fours for a first time home buyer. That's the
we
average
definitely
price
have
point.
that in our area.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to.
But to afford that is the question.
Well, and our area is much less affordable now than it was 10 years ago. But I think that's the country in general
for sure
as well. But our area specifically got hit hard with these insurance costs that went up really high on top of the actual interest rates that went up.
Yeah.
So
Ed, thanks for the comment. He said he has the best. He said, let's just put it up. Why not? He had the best realtors in the world. Guess who? It definitely wasn't us.
It definitely was us.
It definitely was us.
We love you, Ed.
So let's talk about average rent in the area here.
Okay.
So average rent in the area here is $1,600 to $1,800 per month.
Okay. Yes.
And I think some people that are watching this or that are considering buying a home for the first time, they're sitting there saying, and I think this is also all over the internet. Hey, renting isn't for everybody, or you shouldn't rent. You shouldn't buy, you should rent because it's expensive and you have all these things you have to pay for and you're locked down. That has been the theme of the last couple of years. And while I would say that some of that is true, I guess you could say you're locked down, meaning you can't just get up and move every 5 seconds. But I would say that there's a big difference between renting and owning as far as building wealth.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of the conversation here. So price is one, but what is the plan to build wealth? And then we could have that conversation, but I think that's a big part of this.
Well, I think speaking of building wealth and first-time home buyers, our area does have a lot of opportunities for investment properties that also are good as a first-time purchase because they're lower in price. You can live there for a few years and then you might upgrade, but you can keep that first home and rent it out because we have such a large tourism population that you can really turn your first home into an investment property and then keep going with your portfolio and keep building, like you said, wealth and equity through your property. So it actually, I think, has that leg up from other areas because you can really hold on to it for the long term and start that pathway to owning real estate and investment properties.
So what you're saying is there's a lot of opportunity to stay in the area because there's a lot of people that are transient or they're moving to the area, or whether they're vacationing, or we have colleges here. There's a lot of people that would need a place that you want to have as a rental. And I agree with that. But I also think that, you've got to take a look at what do you get when you buy versus when you rent. We call that a rent versus buy analysis, right? And so if you're renting, let's talk about the things you pay for when you rent, or what the basics.
Okay.
So if I'm paying for rent, right?
Okay.
I am paying my rent. Yes. Where does that go?
To the landlord, to the owner of the property.
Yes. I never see that money again, right?
Yeah.
In most cases. I pay utilities.
Correct.
Okay. I pay utilities. I pay rent.
Maybe a pet fee.
Anything inside that has to be uncleaned or whatever, that's on me.
Your security deposit, which usually they try to keep some of it, if not all of it, when you move out.
I mean, that's the biggies. I mean, mostly when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what happens when you rent. Now you're not getting.
I would say, like, last time I rented, but that was really a long time, like 20 years ago.
When was that?
But
don't use that as a reference.
I'm just saying, every year there was an increase, and they would send a letter and say, "Oh, you want to re-sign your lease, but it's 5% more this year," and you really just had to take it. You had to do it unless you wanted to move out.
Cost of living increase or something like that.
Yeah,
just inflation or whatever they
right.
want to call
So
it.
you're never really in control, even though you feel like you're more in control than having a mortgage. But a landlord can still raise your rent without any notice, really. So you have to anticipate that
For
it's
sure.
not going to stay whatever that your original rent is for the long haul.
100%. So there's really no benefits. We just talked about that's the most of the things you're going to have to pay for. Really no benefits when you're renting. Okay.
Well,
except for that's not true. Flexibility.
If you're not sure where you want to end up.
That's true.
And if you can't afford a mortgage.
Sure.
And I think, and we'll talk more about this though, I think a lot of people think they can't afford it or think they need more money down than they do, think they need a higher credit score than they do. And so they don't even look. They're like, I'm just going to have to rent. But I think if a portion of those people actually did apply and saw all the programs that are out there to help first-time home buyers, there might be more opportunities than they think.
Well, I also want to say that I do agree in some cases that not everybody should buy. Like this, not everybody should buy or has to buy. Sometimes renting makes sense. But at the end of the day, there's way more benefits to buying than renting. And so flexibility is one of the ways. And like you said, if you can't afford and you need a place to you need to recover and kind of, based on something that happened and you want to save money and that kind of stuff. Okay, we get it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to buy, so when you buy a home, it's a form of forced savings. So when we say that, what we mean is you're going to pay your principal and interest depending on what type of loan program you have. But if it's a fixed rate and it's a 30-year or something, 15 or 30, you're going to pay principal and interest, taxes and insurance.
Right.
And the principal piece is a forced savings. So the interest goes away, but the principal will go towards your balance of your mortgage.
Plus, hopefully, you're building equity at the same time.
Correct.
So your mortgage is going down.
Well, you have the equity that you're paying down the principal, which is the forced savings, then the appreciation, which, this year across the country isn't really estimated to be that much. But in general, let's just say an average rate of appreciation, 4%.
Yeah. And if you look at it, there's some years that are down years and then there's some that are up. But if you look at a span of 5-10 years, typically that's what you're going to see.
4 to 6. Yeah. So you're making money on the money. So let's talk about this. This is really important. So when you go to buy a home, let's just make this simple. It's $100,000 home.
Okay.
You need to put money down to buy the home.
You don't.
Well,
okay.
But okay. If you did put money down to buy the home, when you buy it, whether you put money down or not, let's say I put 20% down.
Okay.
So 20,000 down for $100,000 home.
Okay.
I am now going to be able to earn money on the whole 100, not just the 20,000 that I had, right? So you're gaining appreciation on all of that money that you borrowed from the bank, which is leverage.
Because you're using other people's money as leverage for your own
100%.
growth.
100%.
Which is a smart decision, unless you're caught having to sell in a down market or something.
Yeah, well, then we're getting a little, that's getting into different cases.
But overall.
But overall.
Yeah.
So at least you're forced savings. Then you have appreciation on your home. And the appreciation is based off of the money you borrowed from the bank, which is 100 instead of 20. So you're going to earn more. You also get tax savings.
That's
tax
something you can't write off anything for your rental, if you're renting.
Yeah.
But you can write off your mortgage interest if you own it.
That's right.
So even though you might be spending a little more a month in your mortgage payment than your rental, then you're also getting those tax benefits. And like you said, the forced savings and the potential for appreciation. So those are 3 things you're for sure not going to get if you're renting. And I think you just have to decide what your goals are. If you want to be transient, then obviously that's not, if you're going to stay in a property for 2 years or longer, I would say then you probably should
consider
buy.
Consider it. You don't want to do it. There's a saying, and I've said this on this show actually before, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Right.
So that's 3 ways you can make money when you buy a home. But there are some downsides.
Of course. Yeah.
There is the upkeep, right? Where normally if you were renting, the landlord keeps up the place, like the outside. And the inside too.
You just call, hey, I have a leak in my toilet, and they come fix it and you're not paying for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is, and then it is illiquid if you, depending on what your definition of liquid is, but if you have a property and you need the money, you can't get it quickly, meaning you have to sell the property. Usually you're talking 60, 90 days to get that money at best.
Yeah.
So, and that's if it sells fast. So that's the downside, but it is something to consider when you're renting versus buying. I wanted to jump back to what it costs.
Okay.
So we said the average rent in Myrtle Beach area, roughly $1,600 to $1,800 a month.
Yes.
The average cost to own a home is, or mortgage is $1,900 to $2,300. So it's not that huge of a difference. And I think what I would consider, you tell me what you think. Do you think that people should consider what that actual extra couple $100 adds in payment every month? Like, really, that's what you're talking about.
I mean, that's what you're talking about, but I think it's not as much the $200 difference as the fear. I think when you buy a home for the first time, you are afraid. You don't know what to expect. Or like big things like the HVAC is going to blow up and you're broke and you don't have any money to fix it. What do you do? And your job fires you and you need to move to a different city and you have to sell your home. Like, there's a lot of unknowns. You could make up a million scenarios. So I think a lot of people are frozen in the fear of unknown. As far as jumping in, it might not be as much like, hey, I'm paying a lot more, as mentally they're not prepared for home ownership. But again, a lot of that can be helped with educating yourself on what programs are out there, what you need to put down payment assistance programs. There's a lot of those for first-time home buyers, and keeping reserves for things like that if you need it. Yeah.
And it is important, we always say this at some point on these lives, is that who you work with matters. So the only way you know about a lot of these programs, obviously with the internet and AI, you can find these programs, but you need to work with someone who is familiar with these programs and knows how to help you get access to these programs. So yeah. All right. Anything we missed on the buying a home versus renting and what to consider? We probably did, but I think we covered the big things.
I think that's the big things.
Yeah.
In some ways, the mortgage is more stable than rent. Like we said, if you're doing a fixed mortgage, the bank's not coming back and saying, hey, we're raising it 5% increase next year. It's fixed for whatever time.
If you get a fixed loan.
If you get a fixed loan, which most first-time home buyers, they're going to get a fixed loan. Let's just be honest. So versus there is unknown in having a rental. And then think about it. Like, you go in a rental and you're paying $1,800, $1,900 for an apartment these days here, right?
Yeah. And
then you have somebody move in that's your neighbor and they're terrible, loud, noisy, doing whatever they're doing, and you are stuck there with them dealing with it. Versus if you move into a house and you buy your first home, you have a little more control.
For sure. And I think it's also very powerful if we say what we just said in a different way. If you were paying, let's call it $1,900 to rent, which is basically $2,000 a month. So 2,000 times 12, what is that? 2,400?
2,000 times 12,
24,000. I mean, 24,000. So it's 24,000 a year that you're paying in rent versus taking your 20 and you put it as a down payment. You make 6% on your 100,000, which is 6,000. Now, then you're also forced savings because some of your payment every month goes towards into your account towards principal.
Right.
So that's a couple thousand maybe for the first year. And then also you have some interest deduction and you might build some equity. I mean, appreciation. Well, we talked about
that.
So I
think we're beating a dead horse with that. So let's
all right.
Let's move on to
just trying to say the numbers it really sounds different when you talk about the numbers.
Do you want to quickly talk about some loan program options for people that are looking for a first time?
Shoot.
I mean, I think people understand that the main thing you hear about is an FHA loan, which is a government backed loan. So you don't have to come to the table with as much money. And you can also have a lower credit score. which is in the 500s, the high 500s, versus conventional, you're in the 600s to qualify. So even though you might have it a little more rough in your situation starting out, that gives a lot of people a foot in the door to get a loan. And we actually just did a first-time homeowner that closed an FHA loan, but they had a 0% down program.
Wow.
Because typically FHA is 3.5% down, but they do have programs for certain areas that qualify for 0% down. And then, of course, 0% down, you also have your USDA loan program. And there are parts of town here that do qualify for USDA. You think of that as being like farmland out.
I was going to say,
nowhere.
explain what that, like what it really is. I mean, that's really what people think.
Yeah, USDA, livestock farming.
Yeah.
So essentially it's places maybe in the outskirts of the main areas that they want to help the population grow. And so they say, hey, we're going to put our efforts into this area and help people buy homes there or want to, because they only have to put 0 down.
Yeah.
And so they offer that. So USDA is an option still in some of our areas, even though you might not think so, because we are such a growing city. And Conway, for example, not too far from the beach, has some USDA approved areas.
And we have VA loans.
VA loans. So if you were in the military service, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
You do have your VA loan, which is also 0% down, and they don't even let you pay for a lot of things on a VA loan. They have restrictions on what you're allowed to pay for. But the FHA and the VA loan, what you're going to come across, let's talk about the downside. So typically on FHA, VA, you think first-time home buyer, and then you think they're purchasing a home that's a little less expensive. Okay, so a lot of the homes in our area that are less expensive might be older, might be not maintained as good, so it's a better deal. But the issue there is that VA and FHA have a different appraisal process. So they don't just appraise it for value. Like a conventional loan will go out and the appraiser will say, is the value there that you're paying for it? That's not the same with a VA and a FHA. They go out and they actually do a home inspection as well as the price appraisal. And they look at things like, how old is the roof? Is there any shaky stair railings?
Yeah.
Is there steps on the porch that could be dicey? Is there missing pieces of the fence out back? Things that you wouldn't even think of. They will come out and say, if the seller does not fix this, we will not loan. And a lot of times in those properties, the seller doesn't have the money to fix those items. So then we come across a part where the deal might fall apart after an FHA or VA appraisal. So you do have to be aware. So when you are looking at a property and you're planning to use one of those types of loans, you have to really look at the property in a different way. And think of it mostly as they're thinking of safety features. The roof, though, they're pretty serious. If anything is if they think it needs to be replaced within 3 years, they don't like that, because they're going to say, we don't want you to have this big expense so quickly after owning. We don't know that we feel comfortable with that. And that's a big contention point, because most sellers aren't going to spend $10,000 and up on a new roof to close. So anyway, when you're looking at a home planning to use those, make sure to pay attention to the age of the roof, any safety issues that you see along the way, and make sure that the sellers are going to be somebody that's going to work with you if those items do come up. Just trying to save the time and trouble. And you don't want somebody to fall in love with the house and then they can't get it. So
100%.
You could always move to a conventional loan, but then conventional, you're putting at least 5% down.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with conventional. If you really don't have the money and you really are trying to put down, or your credit is not so great and you're forced to go FHA, then you just got to be a little more picky on those homes. And it's hard in that lower price point, because we do see a lot of those issues.
I think it's worth talking a little bit about credit and maybe, understanding what they're going to look at besides credit. And then also maybe what are some options if my credit's bad?
Okay.
So different loans are going to have different credit score requirements, right?
Right.
Okay. So what loan programs would be maybe the most flexible for credit?
Any government-backed loan program is going to be more flexible than a conventional program.
Yeah.
But I think 590 is like a minimum score, which is pretty low. I mean, that's
pretty low.
That's pretty low.
580, 590.
Yeah.
That's pretty low. I mean,
yeah.
And so one of the most important things to do, if you haven't bought yet and you're renting,
Right.
is to understand what your credit score is.
True.
Understand that there's 3 bureaus that pull your credit: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And you need to know what all of them are.
Yeah.
And then you need to see if there's any issues with your credit, because they're gonna see it, and then they're gonna say, hey, we got some issues here on your credit report.
Well,
So
let's say you got evicted from your rental, or you didn't pay your rent, or something like that came up.
Non-payment of something
They
is a
are
big
not
deal.
going to like that when they're qualifying you for a mortgage, because it shows that they don't know if they can trust you to make those mortgage payments. So be sure to be up on your payments when you're applying for a mortgage.
Up on payments, and understand that they're going to be looking for these things. So credit score would be one. And, major events, foreclosures, bankruptcies, those types of things, stay on your credit for different amounts of times. You need to understand that as well.
But we have had lenders that will work with buyers. So let's say your credit comes up to be just below 620 or 590, whatever program you're going with, it's just below. And a lender will help you come up with things that you can do to actually improve your credit score. And then they can do a rapid rescore. So instead of waiting for everything to cycle through and update your credit, they will do a rapid rescore. And so it's updated quicker and can help you get into that loan. So even if you do have credit scores that are a little less than ideal, it's still worth it to talk to a good lender that can help you with that and come up with a plan, and they can guide you, because some things that you might think that you should use your money on to increase your credit score might not help. Whereas the lender might say, don't pay off that credit card, pay off your car, or don't pay off your car, pay off your credit card. They need to look at your scenario. So don't do anything, I would say, before talking to a lender.
I would say that for sure. And a lot of people, what we'll find is they'll come to us and they've already gone to a credit repair agency. A lot of times lenders or real estate agents will have relationships that you may want to take advantage of. They already have trusted partners. There's a lot of companies out there that are, I don't want to say scammers, but they're scammers, and they'll try and take advantage of people and just take their money, and they don't really help you with your credit score. So good agent, good lender, and they'll usually have good relationships, but they will look at debt. You need to know about the 3 credit ratings. There's a lot of things you can do to improve your credit, and that'll be a whole nother show. But another thing that lenders will take a look at is your debt to income. And that's a ratio to give them an idea of, okay, can you make these payments on this home? How much debt do you currently have? And how much is your income? And they'll look at the correlation between the two. So that's a biggie as well.
And a FHA and VA will typically allow a higher debt to income ratio than a conventional loan. So again, those programs are easier to get approved. So you might think to yourself, why wouldn't everybody go with those loans?
Yeah.
But the issue is that FHA has a PMI, private mortgage insurance, that never goes away. So conventional loan, you're paying that until you reach a 20% equity. Then you can petition, you either put the 20% down up front, or once you reach that, they come and do an appraisal, and then they will drop that. FHA will never drop that. It's going to be there the life of the loan, whether you paid off 50% or 3%. It doesn't matter. You're going to have that. So that is a downside, because that's just money you're kind of throwing away. It's not going to your principal or interest. So that's not a great part.
It'd be interesting to compare
FHA.
that money that's going away to what you would make on the home, and if you compared all the things you get, you know what I mean? How much that really puts a dent. I've never done that. That'd be interesting.
I mean, again, still
better to,
if that's your only option
Yeah.
to get into a home, FHA, VA, USDA, those are going to be good programs. If you have more money and you can save up and put down at least 5%, your credit is good, then conventional most likely will be the better way to go in the long term than one of those programs.
Yeah. 100%.
So just want to mention that. Besides being that harder appraisal situation.
Yeah.
So if you have like a fixer upper type home, like, no, you're not going to do, although FHA does have a program where you can actually buy a fixer upper and they will fund the renovations for you. So it's an FHA renovation loan program. So if you're going to live in the home, you can get contractors to come and give bids, and then they'll appraise it based on that and to give you the money to do those upgrades. So that's a really cool program to look into.
I think the big message here is you don't need any money down to buy. You don't need amazing credit. They help, but it doesn't have to be that way. And maybe that gets your foot in the door, and then you can put more money down. You can always make extra payments.
Right.
So
and
something to consider.
Yes. And extra payments is smart to do if you can.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Making just one extra payment a year cuts years off your loan.
Yeah.
So just one extra payment. Okay. Costs first-time buyers should plan for. So let's start with homeowners insurance.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that has gone up dramatically in our area.
Big time. And that would be something that you would want to consider. So when we're talking about Myrtle Beach affordable versus somewhere else, these are costs that are specific to Myrtle Beach.
Right.
Not homeowners insurance, but the fact that they went up.
I think probably they went up in a lot of places, but maybe not as much as the coastal towns.
Like Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Probably didn't see
probably
an increase.
Don't have any
yeah,
fires or hurricanes or anything.
Or Dayton or like places where like the home prices are much lower. So,
yeah.
But you're also not on the coast.
Right.
So there's pros and cons to everything.
That's right.
Yeah. So homeowners insurance.
But there are different programs that are in network, out of network that can help get that cost down. And of course, if you buy a lower cost home, your mortgage, your homeowner's insurance is going to be lower because you're not insuring as much.
Yeah.
But sure. if you have a low price home and you have really expensive artwork and jewelry, then your insurance might be more. So when you're talking about homeowners insurance, it's not just the house and the land, but it's also anything you have inside that you want to ensure that's valuable.
Yeah, maybe that's like Elon Musk. He lives in just a normal everyday house. I don't know.
But he has like Picasso's.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's one that could qualify for that. Maybe, I don't know. All right. Flood insurance.
Yeah.
Obviously this is location dependent, but flood insurance here is, we recommend everybody get flood insurance.
We had about 10 years ago, probably now, we had a first-time home buyer that wanted a home in a flood zone. Mm-hmm. Or it was actually not, it was just outside of the flood zone. Yeah,
just outside.
But we knew that area was prone to flooding, specifically that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And she wanted to purchase the home anyway because it was a good price and it wasn't too far from the beach. And we said, okay, we're behind you, but we really, really recommend that you purchase flood insurance, even though you don't have to, because we know that this neighborhood has flooded before. And she chose not to purchase the flood insurance. And about a year later, maybe not even, we had a pretty bad hurricane come through, and that neighborhood unfortunately did flood, and she ended up losing the home.
There was a couple feet of water
there. Yeah.
There's not a lot of places, but we have places that are more prone to flooding than others in this area. And we happen to have a really bad storm that was rare here in Myrtle Beach at that time. And it was just the perfect storm of storms. I hate to say it like that, but
we give out a flood insurance disclosure now because over time, flood maps have changed. And I believe now, because it's been updated since then, the FEMA flood map, that neighborhood is now in a flood zone. Mm-hmm. So just because it's not in a flood zone today, that could change.
Yep.
It could change into a flood zone. So if you're like on the cusp, on the very border of a zone that is a flood zone, you might want to be a little cautious. Definitely get flood insurance, even though you don't have to. And understand that at some point in time, you might be entered into a flood zone on that property.
Yeah.
So you just have to be aware. And again, flood zone X does not require flood insurance. However, we always recommend it because you just never know around here. It is a coastal town. There could be a crazy tidal wave. I don't even know, but it's just smart.
Crazy tidal
all
wave.
kinds of things go through my mind, but it's just the smart thing to do.
It's the smart thing to do when you live near the coast.
Usually between $500 to $1,000 per year, depending on the price of your home. So it's not a huge investment to make to save you from doing what our client did and losing your house potentially. So that's just one of those stories that I won't forget. And I remind first-time home buyers of that when they're making those decisions on their budget.
Every home buyer, because everybody wants to save money.
Yeah, every home buyer.
And then everything goes up like insurance did, and everybody's like, what can I cost or what can I cut? You don't want to cut anything, especially something like that. It's just unfortunate, but
yeah,
I get it. HOA fees for condos and townhomes.
Even neighborhoods. But the neighborhoods HOA fees don't tend to fluctuate as much as a condo building could fluctuate. Especially if you're near the ocean. Those condo building HOAs have dramatically increased, I would say, over the last decade. But the neighborhoods have just barely increased. They did see some increases, but it was very small. So it depends on what type of property you're purchasing.
Condos can be confusing because we're talking about condos that you would live in, not condos that you would do Airbnb rentals, which are different here. But
some people live in those
but
buildings that are also short-term rental properties.
Yeah, most probably aren't going to do that, but yeah. And you got assessments too, but.
Well, here's another issue. If you're looking at a condo or a townhouse, not all condo and townhome projects are VA or FHA approved. So it might be in your budget. You love it. It's great. And you're like, I'm going to get a 0 down loan on this.
Yeah.
And then the lender's like, no, it's not approved because the HOA actually has to do an application to VA and FHA and meet a lot of requirements to be approved. And many of them just don't take the time or don't want to do it. And so make sure if you are planning to do a VA or an FHA loan, but before spending your time getting excited about a property, make sure that it is going to be approved for that type of loan.
Well, a question would be, do you think it's worth it to, if we're buying, do you think it's worth it to buy in buildings that are FHA and VA approved so that if one day we want to sell, we have more options and we're not stuck with just people who can't do FHA and VA?
I think that's a good question, but the problem is that the FHA and VA approval isn't forever. So they have to renew that. And I've seen it many times around town where a building that was FHA or VA approved at one time did not renew that application and they were no longer approved. So you can't always assume that that will be for the long haul. They're not going to take away your loan if you were already purchased in there in FHA or VA, but you just can't get any new loans potentially. So that's something a lot of people go and they get so excited and find a place. And then you're like, no, that's not going to fit into your plan.
Would you say local lenders play a part in that?
100%. Especially if you're a first-time home buyer, before you step foot in a property, you need to have talked to a lender first. Don't you agree?
100%. Yeah. I mean, and look, every agent's going to do things differently. Some will just help you get into units without doing that. We wouldn't.
Well, they might not know that some buildings aren't FHA.
No, I'm talking about talking to a lender from an approval standpoint.
Yeah.
But you need to go to a lender just to get either a pre-approval or show proof of funds. That gives the real estate agent that's helping you represent you or the seller know that you're a qualified individual and you can actually purchase or purchase.
But also it helps you because you know exactly what type of property you can look at, what price of property you can look at, and if you can even qualify. Because the last thing you want to do is go and fall in love with a $400,000 house and find out you're approved for $300,000, and then the $300,000 homes don't look as good because now you're in love with the $400,000 house and the other ones can't even compete, and then you're disappointed. just save yourself all the time and trouble and talk to a lender first. Make sure your credit's good. Make sure what programs you do qualify for or that work best for you, so that your agent and you can then hit the ground running, finding properties that will fit those needs.
100%. What about utilities? Utilities,
let's talk about, everybody's complaining about electric bill, especially with this crazy weather we've been having, because Santee Cooper, which is the electric company for a lot of the Grand Strand, not all of it, decided about a year ago to do the, what do they call it? Peak hours.
Peak hours.
And so in the summer, it's in the evening time, the peak hours when it's hot. And in the winter, it's in the morning times when it's cold and you want to turn that heat on. And so they're going to jack up that price that they're charging you during those hours during the summer and the winter time. So everybody this winter is coming on complaining about the price of their electric bill versus the past, because we never had this before. We kind of had super low electric cost and for many decades. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they do this peak hour implementation. And now we're all seeing it come through the whole year of effects on our bills.
Just another slap in the face.
Nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. I think I did see a little screenshot of somebody from the North's electric bill, which was like $1,000. So I guess we still are good, but we can complain down here because our costs were so low for so long. And so it's really hit a lot of people out of nowhere, especially if you're on a tight budget, and it's $100, $200 more a month. That can really, hurt somebody. So
yeah, for sure. Ongoing maintenance and repairs was the other.
And that's the problem we see a lot is listing agents, because a lot of people will defer their maintenance and it affects them when you go to sell, or it affects you if you're not selling and something major blows up because you didn't take care of it along the way. And then it becomes a bigger problem than it should have been. So, the sellers with deferred maintenance, one, you're going to be on the market longer, get lower price offers. If there's an inspection, oh my goodness, the buyer's going to go wanting everything to be done. And it's going to really affect you at that time on top of what you're dealing with while you're living there.
I would say it's one of the number one challenges that you will face if you don't keep up your property. That is the number one value detractor from your property when someone comes to look at it. You got to do just a little bit every single year, which is very difficult to do because it just goes so fast. It's like, oh my gosh, we've been in here 5 years. We haven't done anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But people will notice, and stuff gets dated no matter how great of a designer you think you are. So stuff gets dated. Landscaping starts to look rough. You need more stone. The
weeds in the yard.
Hardy plank needs painted, whatever it is.
Vinyl needs power washed.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something caulking around, whatever. Patio, when you paint the concrete floors, it starts to peel. You could go on and on, but that is part of the downside of owning a home. You have to maintain the home because it starts to look rough if you don't.
And you put those little things off. Oh, I'll do it next year. I'll do it when I get money. And then next thing, another little thing and another little thing. Oh, you put those off. And then next thing you know, you have like 50 things and your house just is a mess. And it's going to cost you a lot of money to get it back to square one, or you're going to lose a lot of money when you're listing it. So when you're budgeting for a new home, you shouldn't just budget for your electric bills and all the other utility costs and your insurance and mortgage. You should also set aside money for maintenance, either routine maintenance or maintenance issues that come out of the blue.
Yeah, 100%. You have to plan for it and you have to maintain it. That's just all there is to it. Yeah. And if you don't, and you're like, oh, I'll just do it at the end, you can. It's just a lot. I mean, it's a lot. You'd be surprised at how it adds up, and it's expensive. It is. So, okay. Is now a good or bad time to buy?
I think now is a great time to buy, because I see this all the time. A couple years ago, you had to put in offers that were higher than ask price. Nobody wanted to accept FHA or VA because, like I said, about the appraisal issues and They didn't want to take that risk if they had a conventional or cash buyer. So it's
Yep.
really difficult for a first-time home buyer or veteran, unfortunately, to get into a property during that time.
Isn't it funny though how we forget? Like it was just a couple years ago, and that was very difficult time for
my goodness.
FHA, VA, anybody that was doing those programs. That was almost impossible to get a property.
Well, and a lot of people had to pay over ask price, which meant that it didn't appraise. So they had to come to the table with the difference. And a lot of first-time home buyers didn't have that. So it really cut a lot of opportunities and first-time home buyers in general out of the market. Like it was not even an option for them. And that was really difficult during that time. It was hard for buyers that even went the conventional or cash route. We still found it hard to negotiate repairs. Sellers didn't want to do anything or even get an offer accepted. I mean, it was crazy bananas. But
and now we're seeing people that, because they put in, they made a rush. They didn't make a terrible decision, but they bought homes that they may not have bought because they wanted it updated or whatever.
Or they just had to get one offer approved out of the 20 homes.
And so people are now saying, hey, they're asking us questions about renovations and, should we renovate? Or, that's what people are coming to us with now. So, or they want to make a change. They want to sell. So that's what that's happening now.
But now you not only have homes that are staying longer on the market, so you're not having to rush as much. You can actually do a due diligence period, which means you can do all of your inspections and ask for repairs and negotiate based on those inspection findings. But I think also another huge thing for first-time home buyers that was missing that no seller would do a couple years ago was give closing cost assistance. Because now you can say, okay, I'll pay your asking price, but I want 3% to 6% on an FHA loan, can be up to 6% towards my closing cost, and really get everything but your down payment covered. And if you're in a 0% down loan, you could literally walk to closing with nothing.
Which is pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
But a lot of sellers would not even entertain that. And so again, that took a lot of people that needed that assistance, that little boost to get into the market, out of the market. And that opportunity is there now. And you might want to look at a new home builder. We have a lot of opportunities in the area where they are cheaper price per square foot. It's a brand new home, so you're not going to have those maintenance issues come
100%.
up right away. You're going to qualify most of the time for FHA or VA because everything's new. They're not going to have any issues. And builders are offering incentives, down payment money, low interest rates for somebody that's just getting into the market. That would be my first path, honestly, unless you just love the charm of older homes, or want to be in a certain location in town and you're very picky about that. If you can get into one of these new home build communities, that can be super beneficial for a first-time home buyer.
It's funny though. You think about it and it's maybe there are some people who don't want new construction, but but there could be more costs if you get an older home, because there's more upkeep, there's more updating, things could go wrong. It's built who knows how long ago. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, I think it's a great path, especially with all of the, like you said, the incentives that builders are offering. It can be a huge benefit for a first-time home buyer and take away a lot of those things that cause the fear. Is my HVAC going to break this year? Is my roof going to need replacing next year? No, it's not. And you have the builder's warranty, which is typically a year, that they'll come back and fix anything for you. So it's kind of like having a rental for a year.
Yeah.
And ease your way into home ownership.
Yeah. We didn't really talk much about this, but we talked about rates. We talked a little bit about rates and programs, but rates right now are probably going to be, everyone's expecting, no one really knows, but everyone's planning, expecting, forecasting for around what we're at now, which is around the 6% range for the year as a normal. And refinancing is always an option. We haven't really talked about that.
Not for a first-time home buyer.
Not for a first-time home buyer, but I'm just saying in general. So, okay. Anything else about now a good time to buy or not?
Yeah, I just think that if you wait and let's say the interest rates go down to 5%, I think the market's going to be flooded again with a ton of people, and it's going to create an environment again where it's very difficult for somebody needing the different loan programs, down payment assistance, doesn't have cash out of pocket to pay for a difference between the appraised value and the value that that the seller's willing to sell it. If you don't want to deal with that stuff, you know that now is a good time to buy. We know that right now is a good time to be a buyer.
The rates are historically good. They're not as low as they were a couple years ago, but that was unrealistic.
Yeah.
5 is also unrealistic. 5 is probably not going to happen. 5.5 is a maybe, but they're saying now that pretty much not even 5.5. We have a new Fed chair that's coming in. He's been announced. He's, without getting too detailed, someone who is, he wants things to be natural. He's more about, hey, we're not going to artificially suppress rates. So we'll see if that's what happens. But if that's the case, they're going to slowly try and bring rates down. This is about probably where we'll be. This is the environment, but it's a good time to buy. 6% historically, great rate. If you compare it to the 80s, that was 18 to 20%. So if you know your history and look at rates from now all the way to where, since we've been keeping track, historically, they're good.
What do y'all think about the rates?
That's a good question.
I would
be interested to know what everybody thinks about the rates. Yeah. And what is it, if you watch this later and you're not watching it now, or if you're watching it now, what is keeping you from purchasing? I would love to know. Yeah. So we're talking about how to figure out if you should or shouldn't buy, and is it a good time, and rates and programs. What is keeping you from buying? I would love to know. And it might be price. I'm just interested to know.
And we have put together several new home buyer guides about buying a new home for the first time, preparing for a new home, financing. So reach out to us. We would love to send those over to you and help you as a first step, a quick guide to make the process a little less overwhelming.
100%. That's what we're here for. Okay. Specifics, facts about the Grand Strand. So beach areas cost more than inland communities.
Yes.
Fair?
Fair.
Yeah.
The closer you get to the beach, the higher price per square foot you're going to get.
Yeah. 100%.
And the higher your flood insurance, your homeowner's insurance.
Yeah. Traffic and seasonality, they impact your quality of life.
I mean,
but honestly,
I don't think it's bad. Like,
we don't think it's bad because we've lived in big cities.
Off 501.
Yeah, but even that, if you come from a big city, this is not bad. You might have 30 to 45 minutes at the end of a day, depending on the time. I don't think that's a big deal. And that's rare.
Not a typical commute, but that's if you're like on 501 trying to get to the beach.
That's like worst case.
Yeah.
We talked about the flood zones and elevation. Short-term rental rates vary by area.
Well, I think if you are a new home buyer, you would want to know if short-term rentals are allowed in your neighborhood. Do you want that in your neighborhood? Do you want vacationers coming in and out that you don't know? Or do you want stable neighbors? Like that makes a whole difference in the feel of a community.
For sure.
When you have short-term rentals versus mostly homeowners that live there.
Well, that bleeds into the second point that I was going to make, which was that resale value matters, right? So you have to think about one of the we always give our clients this advice, and we do it ourselves. Before we make a decision on purchasing something, we try and decide what the exit strategy is.
Yes.
How easy will it be to sell? Is anyone else going to want to be here? Why would they want to be here? What are the reasons? And so I think that that's something you have to think about. So resale value matters. Location, you hear the location. Yeah. That does matter too.
Even the lot itself.
Yep.
Like anything about the house that makes it stand out. If it's been sitting on the market, terrible lot, bad floor plan, you're getting a killer deal, that looks good up front, but you might also have to understand that you're going to have to deal with those same objections when you go to sell and probably give that same discount.
Yep.
So is it worth it? That's up to you, but you have to understand that that's not going to go away when you go to sell, but it can be appealing to get that killer deal on a property like that. I was just talking to somebody the other day about we have a lot of low-rise condos here, which are between 1 to 3 floors, and most of those do not have elevators. We do have some that do, but most of them don't. And if you like the 3rd floor because you don't want somebody stomping above you, you like the higher ceilings and all of that, that's great. But there's going to be people that are not going to want to lug everything up 3 flights of stairs or not be physically able to do that. And so it will typically, if you're on the 3rd level with no elevator, make either your sales price a little lower usually, or you're going to be on the market a little longer, just waiting for that other buyer that does appreciate what you get on the 3rd floor. So there are a lot of things to think about and consider when you're purchasing a property for resale, like you said, because it's easy for us to just say, I like it, I love it, let's just do it. But you do have to, in some sense, it's hard, think about it also as an investment. Even though you're living there, eventually you're going to sell it. And how is that going to go when you do that?
100%. You need to think about all of it. And that is also why, you need to run it by somebody, because there's things you're not going to think about. We still sometimes to this day, we're like, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. We should have thought about that.
Well, especially as a first-time home buyer, I feel like you might not know what questions to ask. And I also find a lot of people tend to be in your ear when you're a first-time home buyer, and it could be overwhelming. This person saying this person saying this, and it's stressful. It's stressing you out that if you're just buying a home and you're not telling anybody, or you're doing it for the 5th time, nobody's giving you advice and on what you should do personally. But when you're a first-time home buyer, I feel like everybody wants to put in their 2 cents.
100%.
And sometimes it can just really mess up the process. And so in some ways I would suggest maybe having a little bit of earmuffs in that case.
For sure. I agree. So it's really important to think about everything when you're purchasing and think about the exit plan. So
good point.
Yeah. I think we covered a good bit of ground tonight. Is there anything we didn't mention that we should have talked about? I don't think so.
I'm sure there's a lot of things, but if y'all have questions and there's something we didn't hit, and somebody reminded me of the other day, because I was saying how we had 12 months of inventory on the ocean, and they were like, I'm not into the lingo. I don't understand what does 12 months of inventory mean. And sometimes we are doing this constantly. So things that might seem, obvious to us, that because we do it so much, somebody might not understand it. So if there's something that we didn't cover or questions you have, please reach out to us. We'd love to help be your guide. And like I said, we do have those guides we put together that you can go through, and that gives you some questions and food for thought.
100%. And it's possible. I think what I always, am a big fan of is having a plan. Right. So if you're a first-time home buyer and it seems really far or really impossible that you are trying to afford a home or any type of property, and you just want to get your foot in the door, then find somebody where you live that can help you come up with a plan. Yeah. Because it really just comes down to a plan. If you know the end result that you want, then you can back into it and make a plan. And that's what we help all of our clients do. That's what we do for ourselves. And it's just, then you just have to execute. And if you do that, then you're in good shape.
I've like many times have had people say, I'm so sorry, I'm not ready, but I just don't know what to do. And I don't want to waste your time. And I always say, you're not wasting my time. You have to start somewhere. And you have to, like Frank said, come up with a plan. And if you just push that off, then you never come up with that plan. And then you keep kicking the bucket down the road and don't purchase a home. So eventually don't feel bad about reaching out. Even if you're like, I don't know if I qualify. I don't know if I'm ready. It might be a year, 2 years, tomorrow. I don't know. I want to just talk it through with you and figure this out. We are happy to help you. Whether we talk to you and we're like, look, it's probably not the best time for you based on the conversation, or this, hey, it could be tomorrow. You think it's a year. We think you could qualify now if you wanted to, or we come up with a game plan to get you into that home in a year. Whatever it is, don't feel bad about reaching out. I think that's what holds a lot of people back, because they feel silly, like taking that first step and asking questions. They don't want to waste anybody's time. But that's what we're here for. And we really, really don't mind. And we love first-time home buyers and guiding you through the process. It's such a fun experience because it's so exciting. Like people that have bought it, a home. It's kind of like whatever,
Well,
but
it's fun. It's fun at every level. So there's different,
yeah.
there's different fun things at each level. So it's interesting. It keeps it interesting. So
it's really cool to see people with the first home ownership, the pride of finally owning a home. It's really exciting.
I agree. So if you need anything and you want to ask questions, you have our contact info. We're here for you. We appreciate you watching. If you watch this later and you have any questions, let us know. If you need anything, any topics that you want to see and questions that you'd like answers on, we're here to help.
And remember, buying a home is not a one-size-fits-all situation. So we will always be honest with you. And even if we think it's not the right decision, we'll let you know that as well. So
for sure. That's what it's all about. All right. So next Thursday, we'll see you. Same place, same time. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye.